Hey everybody, welcome to FabFit Friday. We're going to be working on a different kind of fitting today. I am making cushion covers for my sister's patio furniture. I don't know if you remember last year I made a cushions for her curved wall on her new patio. Well, now her furniture has some tan fabric that's not in the best shape, so for Easter I'm hoping to finish cushions for her. She has 2 chairs and 2 ottomans, so I've got a grand total of four, five, six cushions. Or actually, I think there's 8 because there's 2 backs, 2 seats, and I think the ottomans need 2 each. Whatever. Bottom line is, I'm going to show you how I'm planning to make these cushion covers, because one thing that you can save money on when you're sewing for yourself is cushion covers for furniture, because they're so expensive. My sister went to a home store in town, and it would have cost her over $100 for cushions for just 1 chair. So she ended up spending about $150 on sunbrella fabric, piping, and I have zippers, so I'm going to use my zippers. But my point is, for significantly less money than it would cost for her to purchase new covers, we can make new ones. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm probably not going to sew the whole thing with you because it's a lot of, the same steps. But what I want to do is show you how I planned out the size of my pieces. And I have 2 different style cushions. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you how I cut out my piping, and I might start sewing, but I get it if you don't want to watch me sew cushions, because I don't think that's riveting TV. But in any case, let me just stop and say hi to Janie. Hi Janie, I think it's just you and me today. I do want to wish everybody who celebrates Easter a happy Easter as well, because sometimes by the end of the video I forget to do that. I always forget it's a holiday. Hi Shelby, welcome from Dallas, Texas. Woohoo! Oh, speaking of Texas, I am teaching at the National ASG conference in San Antonio this summer, and I just sent out my newsletter. So if you get my newsletter, it's got a list of all the classes I'm going to be teaching in April and May, and I put a link to the National ASG conference page as well. Unfortunately, all my classes are sold out except for the Great Rub-Off. So if you want to join me for the Great Rub-Off at the ASG conference, definitely head over there and register, because I'm not sure how many spaces are left, but I'm guessing there are not very many spaces, I think. But anyway, my Happy Pants, Yoga Pants, and T-Fit class are already sold out, so I'm really sorry if anybody was trying to get into those classes. Hi Ingrid. She says, cool, I'm making new covers for the dining room chair cushions, also made covers for patio dual chair with an attached table. Was hard to find a weatherproof cover that fit. Oh yes, Ingrid, happy Passover too. I I'm the Jewish traditions are very near and dear to my heart as well, because my first husband was Jewish, and I do miss celebrating that holiday. But we do some of that celebrating, because my girls still go over to their grandparents' house, and I think it's an amazing holiday. I feel very blessed that I got exposed to, more than just one religion. So happy Passover, happy Easter to everybody. Oh, Shelby wants to know how I thought about the Sew Expo. Well, actually, at the Sew Expo, I only made a brief appearance in the Ditto Form virtual booth on one of the days when she had a virtual booth session, because I was teaching at Stitches West, and I missed teaching at the Sew Expo, so unfortunately I didn't get to do that. I will tell you I did do it last year, and I taught yoga pants, and it sold out twice. So I'm sure people had fun at Sew Expo, and I think the classes are amazing at Sew Expo. I'm hoping, it's on my bucket list to teach there live at least one time in my J-Stern Design career. I have not taught live there yet, so maybe next year. We'll see. All right, so let me just show you what I have here. Part of me always cringes when I have a big project to work on because it's sometimes hard to see. Let me just move. Oh, Deborah would like to know, hello Deborah from Fort Worth, Texas, are you going to show how to make piping? You know what, I will start sewing after I show how I planned cutting out my pieces. I'm going to start making piping, and I invite everybody to watch for as long as they want to. I'm going to be sewing on this for a while, and maybe I'll just leave the camera on, and if you guys want to watch me sew this cushion, you can, and if you want to leave because you already know how, or I think I already showed how to do some of this in a previous FabFit Friday when I made my sister custom cushions last year, that's fine. But I'll just keep the camera rolling then if people want to see what I'm doing. So let's just start by, how do you plan to copy a cover on an existing cushion? So that's what we're going to start with. And I can see here, I'm going to move myself over here so I'm not in the way. Okay, so this is one of the cushion backs. So I have this style cushion, and that's the one I'm going to work with today. I do also have this style cushion, so a rectangular cushion. That's your standard seat cushion. Okay, so I'll talk about that in a minute, but for right now, this is kind of unique, or not unique, but you can see the way this cushion is designed. Before you start measuring, you want to really look at how the original cushion was made. So for example, I can see that this top of this cushion is actually wrapped around, so see there's no seam here, and then you know it ends up here. So I measured this cushion, and usually when I measure cushions, I don't measure the edges because sometimes that can get drawn in by the stitching or the tension on, you know, sewing it together. So I like to measure my cushion in the middle. So I'm just going to start here at the edge, and I'm just going to wrap my tape measure right around like this. And I'm very happy to see that I ended up getting the same number, 41. Okay, so to that number, I'm going to add 1 inch because I need 2 seam allowances to finish this opening for the zipper. Hey Debbie, welcome. Oh, we have a Debbie, a Deborah. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So this is 42 inches long, and if you include the 1 inch seam allowance. So I always jot these dimensions down so I don't forget. So I have 42 by, and I'm just going to measure, like I said, I'm not going to measure the edge. I'm going to measure down somewhere in the middle of the pillow here. And I get 21 and a half, which makes me happy because that's what I got the first time. Let me just double check. Okay, yes. All right, so measure twice, cut once. So I did measure twice, but I already cut it out. But I did end up with the same number, so I'm really happy. So I cut 2 of these pieces because there are 2 chairs. And then we also need the side pieces. So you can see that the side piece is, if I measure this, 2.5 inches by 17.5 inches. So we're going to go with 3.5 by 18.5 because remember you have to add an inch for seam allowances on both ends. you know, 1/2 inch on either side in both directions. So I've cut those pieces out. So let me show you what they look like. Oh, hi Liz. Liz is sitting on her patio cushions watching. I love that. I hope it's as nice there as it is here. It's a beautiful day today. I wish we were going to have warmer weather for Easter, but it's only going to be 50 here. Okay, so you can see I've cut out that dimension cushion. So this folded edge here is going to be the that top edge that doesn't have a seam. And then I've got my side pieces right here. So I've got two, I don't need 4 of them, so I'm just move that one out of the way. So I've got my 2 side pieces, and I've got my cushion fabric. The next thing I did, and this is kind of an interesting thing, I think. Now, I have my piping, and this piping is, let me just get this a little bit closer now. Maybe, I'm sorry, I'm going to blow it out for a second. Shut your eyes. All right, let me just make it so it's not so bright here. Okay, so this is 3/8 inch cording, and I had my sister, this was so funny, my sister does not sew, and she went to Joann Fabrics and she FaceTimed me in the aisle so I could show her, you know, what to pick out. So the way you can tell how big or how wide to make your strip is to take a piece of the fabric, and I'm just going to use this little piece right here, and then what you want to do is you want to wrap the fabric around the cording that you're going to use, and then figure a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so when it's finished you want to have a 1/2 inch seam allowance. That's going to make it easier to then sew it to your cushion edge because you have 1/2 inch seam allowances on that as well. So, you know, some of these cordings are squishier than others depending on the kind that you're using. So I wrapped it around, marked where my 1/2 inch seam allowance was, and then when I opened it up, I ended up with 1 3/4. Oops. 1 3/4 for a width. And I'm still getting that same 1 3/4. I know it's hard to see, but that's how you can determine how wide to make your strips to create your own custom piping. So how do you determine how much piping you need? You measure the edge of your cushion, and if they're different, meaning if, you know, it's a square, measure one edge and then multiply that by 4, and that's how much piping you're going to need for the top, and you're going to need the same amount for the bottom. If your cushion has 2 different measurements, then measure 2 of the edges. Like let's say it's a, you know, 20 by 18, you're going to add those 2 together, and then so 20 and 18 is 38, and then you double that to get how much you need for, you know, the top of the cushion. Then you also need it for the bottom of the cushion. So, oh, Ingrid says, always bought cording that had fabric already attached. Great to know how to do this cording that doesn't. Okay, so you can make your own custom trim, and actually this is cording, or the cord filling, and what we're going to create is called piping. Okay, so this is cording. I'm going to show you how to make this cording into piping. And what I've already done here is, you can see, let me just show you here. Let me just make it big again. Okay, so what I did to cut out my fabric strips that are 1 3/4 inch, I actually found the bias grain line. Just get this piece right here. Let me show you. So what I did was, you can see on my board right here, see this line on my messy board? This is a bias grain line. And if I line up the straight grain with the straight edge, straight lines on my cutting mat, then you can see that this diagonal edge is cut on the 45-degree angle. And Liz is asking me, does it have to be bias strips for cording? If you don't have enough to cut them on the bias, you can cut them on the straight of grain. The problem is going to be that when you go around the corners, or if you're doing a curved cushion, the fabric isn't going to have any stretch to it, and it's going to be a little bit wonky around corners or curves. If you're just making straight cushions and you don't care that the corners might be a little bit hard to negotiate around, you can cut them straight of grain, but it will work better if you cut them on the bias. Now you can see here, this is just a down and dirty, easy way to do it. I basically drew a line, and you can see the line right here. I drew it with a Sharpie marker to mark my my bias grain line, and then I cut on that line. Okay, so once you have the bias direction, then what you can do is fold it in that direction. So I think you can see here, if I make it closer, see how you can still see my the line from the Sharpie marker? So basically I drew my line in, okay, and then once you have your bias edge, you can fold your fabric in half and make it a little bit more manageable to cut out. Now here's the trick to doing this. I can actually, you know, fold it in half, and if I wanted to, I could also fold this down like this, okay? But here's how you can tell if you're folding it properly. Wherever your folds are, they need to be perpendicular, perfectly perpendicular to your bias edge. So if I fold this here, and if I put one of my big pattern weights there, you know, I can see that that is straight. Let me do it up a little bit higher, straight there. You know, then I can just check the bottom and make sure that's straight as well. So if your folds are straight, then you can cut through and you'll end up with a nice strip here. So I'm going to go ahead and also line it up with a line here like this. I've got everything straight. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut myself another 1 3/4 inch strip. Okay, and let me open that up so you can see what it looks like. You can keep cutting once you're going, but I already have cut plenty, so I'm just going to leave that over here for now and just show you. See, when you unfold it, see how where I folded it is straight across? If my fold had been wonky, I would have ended up with like a little bump here, like it would have bent and bent. So you want to make sure that those folds are nice and perpendicular. Okay, so there's the strips. So now I will show you how to make some piping. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to sew all these strips together. I'm just getting my sewing machine here. I'm sorry about that. Oh, and I still have the thread on it from the, just lower this here. Okay. I still have the thread from my project last week when I was showing how to make the garter. Here's the garter finished. See how pretty that came out? I was really happy with the, oops. Really happy with the way this came out. This is what I worked on last week. And actually, as an aside, I have this much fabric left from the original money bag. So I'm going to embroider their names and their wedding date tone on tone here and make a little bag to store the garter. I'm probably going to work on that this weekend. But basically, then she'll have a new bag from her other bag that I cut up to make the garter. So since I have my let me just plug in my machine here, and then I just have to switch my thread because I have white in here still. I'm going to go with this nice gray color. And one of the reasons why I love this sewing machine so much is that it's got walking feet. Walking feet make you look like you're a better sewer than you really are. And because I'm just going to be straight stitching, I'm going to switch my plate to just the straight stitch plate here. And my straight stitch foot that also has a built-in feed teeth in it like a walking foot. So this will help me sew more accurately. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to leave, because we're making piping and that's not going to show, like the stitching to the piping is not going to show, I am going to leave the bobbin white for now. Oh, this fabric is Sunbrella fabric. That's really important because I'm glad you asked me that question, because if you use fabric that's regular fabric or regular home deck fabric, it will fade in the sun within days. So you really need to find Sunbrella or, you know, fabric that's been treated for the sun to make it, I just want to make sure this is, there we go. Just want to make sure this is nice and sharp. Okay. All right, so this is Sunbrella fabric, so it will not fade. Now they also make Sunbrella thread, but I'm just going to use all-purpose thread here, so I'm not gonna fuss with that. And then I will be using the original cushions that were in the original, you know, that were on the chair, so I don't need to purchase any additional cushions. I love the needle threader with this machine too. It's very nice. All right, so to start to make piping, one thing that I'm going to show you here is there really is no right and wrong side to this fabric. So I don't have to worry about matching right sides together. I don't know if that's a cursing or a blessing here. All right, so I'm just going to show you how to make, first I'm just going to show you how to sew strips together. So the first thing you want to do if you're going to sew strips together, you want to put your strips together, right sides together. So I'm just going to pretend this is right sides. I think it is. You want to put them perpendicular to each other. So see how I have one going this way and one going that way. And where we're going to sew, let me just put a pin here. I'm going to pin it so I can show you. So this is when you want to make a lot of piping. So you're making a lot of piping to cover, you know, a couple chairs, a few cushions. It's always better to have one continuous piece. So you're going to sew from corner to corner, and I'm just going to draw that in so you can see where we're going to sew. So I'm just going to draw with a Sharpie marker. So we're going to sew from corner to corner like this. Okay, so you can see that's where you sew. And I'm just going to sew I'm just going to sew one seam today. I'll work on the rest later because I just want to show you how to apply piping to an edge. So I'm going to start right there. I'm going to get my, sorry. What do I do with my, just need my foot control, sorry. All right. Okay, so I am just going to sew right along this line. And I'm back tacking so it doesn't come out too. Okay, so Deborah would like to know, do you use the same technique for interior cushions, out of home deck, or cottons? Absolutely. So if you're making covers for your new cushion covers for your couch or a chair, then the piping technique is going to be exactly the same. You just don't have to worry about having that Sunbrella fabric. I just feel like, oh, that's better. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to cut this, and I'm just going to leave a 1/4 inch, and I'm just eyeballing it. Okay, so see, now we have a 1/4 inch, and that's how it looks finished. See how nice that is? And supposedly sewing it on the diagonal is just less distracting. And I can see that oh, that's interesting. My stripes are going in the wrong direction. So I probably put right side to wrong side. But in the big scheme of things, I don't think anybody is going to notice that, because it's just, just a skinny little piece of piping is going to show up. So let me just see something here. So like, let's say, okay, so here's my join. I'm going to go to the next one. Okay, so here's my next end. I'm going to get another piece. And let me see if I can match my stripes. So if I do it like this, it's very subtle, but I just want to see if I sew it. So if I sew it like this, see how the stripes are now going in the same direction? I don't know if you can see that, if it's light enough. See how the stripes, subtle stripes, are going in the same direction now? So you do want to pay attention to that. All right, so in this case, I know I have right sides together because the stripes are matching. So let me just sew this one. And again, oops. I'm just gonna pin it. I'm not gonna draw the line this time. I'm just gonna sew straight down like this. All right, so that's that. I'm gonna cut that about a 1/4 inch, and now we're matching. So see how the stripes now match? So you do want to pay attention to that. So that's the first step, and I'm just gonna cut off the one that I screwed up, and I'll fix that later. So I'm just gonna cut that one off. All right, so now I've got some pieces here. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna take my piping. I want to make sure that I'm wrapping the cording on the inside. You can go through and you can press these seam allowances open with your iron. I'm just going to finger press here for, just for expediency purposes. But basically, on the right side of your fabric, right here, I'm going to get that. I'm going to get my cording here. Let me just get rid of the wrapper. Okay, so I'm going to take this cording and I'm going to wrap it around like this. And I'm going to, oh, you know what? Ugh. All right, I have to switch feet because I want to use my zipper foot. So hold on, I forgot about that. You need to use your zipper foot, or if you have a piping foot, you can use that as well. But this machine has an amazing zipper foot. Let me just show you this. I'm going to have to take this off too. I'm sorry, I screwed that up. When I go to sew the actual cushion, I'm going to put that back on. Alright. But you can see these plates are very easy to change back and forth. Alright, so let me put on my zipper foot here. And what I'm going to do is I'm wrapping the piping or the cording around, you know, the strip is wrapped around. I'm going to put the presser foot down, and then I'm going to move the needle as close as I can, you know, to the left. So you can see what's happening here is I've got my, just make this a little less bright. So I'm matching the edges of my bias strip. I've got my needle all the way over to the left. I'm just going to start stitching. I'm just going to back tack so it stays. Now, I don't need to push that needle up as tightly against the cording as I can right now, because we're going to sew it again when we sew it to the cushion. So right now I'm just trying to get it sewn together. The important thing now is we want to make sure that we're keeping this edge even with each other. So I'm just gonna, I like to pull my cording a little bit off to the right, and that kind of helps keep it so basically I'm just going to keep going until I get to the end of my strip. I'm kind of happy my sister asked me about this project because I really haven't had time to do a lot of sewing this week, so I didn't really have any progress on my shirt or anything new started. So this actually worked out to be a nice project for today, I think. So you can see I'm just sewing straight down, matching up my piping as I go. I'm getting there. I'm getting to where I sewed two strips together here. Okay, when I come to my seam, I'm going to make sure that my seam allowances are still, you know, pressed open. That just makes it a little less bulky here. The other thing about sewing the strips together on the diagonal is you can see that the seam allowances are offset because the seam is diagonal and we're sewing straight across. So that also helps with the bulkiness of the seam allowances. Just going to tuck this under there. Okay, I'm almost to the end. The top layer of fabric always wants to scoot away from the edge, so you really have to try to keep that from scooching. All right, I'm at the end. I have like 2 more feet to go. All right, here we are. Okay. All right. We have piping. Show you how that looks. Okay, so see how it looks? Okay. All right, so now, where are we putting this piping? We are going to put the piping on these little pieces. Let me make it a little bit bigger so you can see. Okay, so we're going to sew the piping onto the little side pieces. So if we remember, let's look at the original cushion. So the original cushion has these sides. Okay, so that's what we're going to sew the piping on to. And see how they got a nice, neat finish here? I'm going to show you how to get this nice, neat finish on the start-stop point of your piping. So see how that looks nice and neat? When I first learned how to do piping, I would just run it off the edge and I'd have like a little diagonal going on there. Kind of like when you serge something in the round and you just serge off the edge after you pass your start point. But I'm going to show you how to do it like this so it looks nice and neat. All right, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to start on one edge, and when we start at the start point right here, here's my end, I'm actually going to pick out the stitching, and I should have just remembered not to start sewing it at the very end, because you do need to leave an opening, and I'll show you why in a minute. But basically, I'm just going to pick the stitching open here. So you want to leave about, I don't know, 2 inches, 3 inches. So what I'm doing is I'm just picking that apart. So when you make your piping, just leave like the end unsewn, okay, so you can get to it. I think that's probably enough. Let me just do a little bit more here. Okay, so I'm going to start right here, and notice I'm not pinning anything. I'm just lining up the raw edges. So I'm going to line up the raw edges of my piping with the 1/2-inch seam allowance on my side piece here, and I'm just going to start stitching. Now here's where I want to get a little bit closer in. I don't want the seam that I already sewed here to show. So in order to prevent that from showing, I'm going to stick my finger here and I'm just going to push the piping against the needle. So it's just a little bit closer now. I mean, and in the end, it still doesn't need to be super close because we're still going to be sewing it one more time when we sew the cushion cover to the side piece. So, so we still don't need to be super duper close. I just want to make sure I'm sewing at least as close. Okay, so when I get to the corner, so here's my corner right here. I'm going to take my little scissors and I'm just going to snip the seam allowance, and what that's going to allow my seam allowance to do, and I think I snipped it. I got to snip it you got to snip it a ½ inch before the corner. So I kind of snipped that a little close. So what you're going to do is when you get within a ½ inch of your opposite end, and happy dance for me, the end of my presser foot is a ½ inch from the needle, so now I can lift it up. I'm going to take one stitch in the 45 degree, and then I'm going to wrap it around to a 90 degree, like that. So I'm going to get this one lined up. I'm going to clip it a ½ inch from the edge. Okay, so I'm just going to stitch, stitch, stitch. When my presser foot gets to the end of the fabric, or my needle gets to the clip, that's another way. Again, I'm going to turn it 45 degrees, take one stitch manually, and then turn it like this. And you can see already, look what a nice corner that is. See how nice that is? Oh, hi. Are you having trouble with the audio? I hope it's on your end. I hate to say that, but I have everything nice and neat for my audio here. I hope it goes away and you can hear me. All right, so I'm gonna stitch down this opposite long end here. Okay, and again, I'm going to clip a ½ inch. So to the clip, one stitch at the 45, and then straighten that out. Oh, Ingrid says the audio is good. Oh, Deborah says this part is scary to me. Maybe it's the zipper foot. Don't be scared. It's really very easy. I mean, people, you know, you look at something and until you try it, it can be scary, but this is actually really easy. You can do it. All right. Okay, so again, 45 degree, one stitch. That little one stitch at the 45 degrees helps the, you know, it helps it turn the corner. All right, so this is going to be the exciting part here. I'm coming to my start point. I'm going to stop stitching about 3 inches from my start point. Okay, and I'm just going to back tack here quickly to hold it there. I'm going to cut my... All right, so let's look at what we have here. We have the start and stop point. I am going to cut my... Well, first, let me cut... I'm going to cut this even. Like this. Okay, and this is the side that's down first here. So I'm gonna turn that edge under a ½ inch like that. Okay, so see how that now is finished neatly. Then what I'm going to do is I am going to cut this tail so it overlaps about a 1/2 inch here. Okay, so I cut that off. So I think I have enough piping here to do the other side. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to unsew this end. Now this end you're going to have to unsew unless you plan it exactly lengthwise, so it's just easier to have this. So what's going to happen here now is I am going to, let's do it this way, I am going to trim my cording so that it's equal. Okay, so I'm basically going to butt up the two ends of the cording, and I'm going to cut it. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in here like this. Well, first I'm going to make sure this is staying down. And actually, to help me make it nice and neat, do I have my Wonder Tape somewhere where I can see it? No. All right, that's all right. I'm going to just fold this down, and then I'm going to wrap this one inside it. Okay, so see, this outer one is going to be wrapped down a 1/2 inch. And I'm just going to stick this one right in there, like that. Okay, and I have to get it to lay flat, so I might need to trim my piping just a little bit more to get it to be exactly even. So actually, you know what, you don't have to unsew this. I screwed that up. Hold on, let me just sew this part back up. I'm just going to sew all the way to the end here. That will help me. I haven't done this since last spring, so just bear with me. Oh, Ingrid, you totally can do it on the bias too. Oh. You can, but it's just easier and less fussy to do it this way. So see how this, you're just going to incorporate this one into here, turn this under, incorporate it, and encase it like this. Okay, so see what you end up with is, see how that's nice and neat now? So now I'm actually going to use one pin here to hold it. Okay, and now we can finish sewing it. I'm going to put it back in. I'm just going to back tack here. And then we're just going to sew right over that. Just going to use my tweezers to tuck that under there. Okay, so see how we have a nice, neat start-stop point now? And this one is not on, you know, it's not on the bias, but it's such a small thing, I don't think anybody's going to notice that. See? So that's how you sew your piping onto your side pieces. That's what my side piece looks like. Now, in order for me to show you how to sew, let me see, Debbie said, could you have pressed the first end before you started to make it easier? Yes, Debbie, you could press, you definitely could press it. Absolutely. Another thing you can do is you can also stitch it down. So that's another thing you can do. So basically, I have my one side, and in order for me to show you how to sew this to the cushion itself, I would have to do both of these. So anybody who wants to continue to watch me, you can. This time what I'll do is, this time I'm going to press it, Debbie. Just plug my iron in here. Oh my God, I bent my iron thing. Big scissors to push it back. All right. Okay, let me just. All right. I'm going to plug my iron in and let that get heated up for a hot second. And while that's getting heated up, I'm going to get this side ready. So actually, if we think about what we just did, Debbie says, I've never made a seat cushion, but you make it look easier than I thought. It's honestly, it's not hard. It's really not hard. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do this time. Let's try this. Instead of having both ends to fuss with, I am going to cut this. So I'm leaving myself, you know, a couple inches. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this under my iron. I'm feeling really clever right now. I think I'm going to simplify the whole thing. I'm going to cut off the piping here before I even get started. Okay, so see how I cut that off? Then I'm going to press this down, and Debbie gets a gold star for suggesting that. So let's go ahead and give, oops, let's go ahead and give that a nice press. So see how nice that stays when it's pressed? Fabulous, Debbie. Okay. Now, I'm going to move this out of the way. Okay, so some things I'm an expert at, and some things I can just, you know, some things are sort of experimental. I just do them every now and then. I'm not an expert home deck maker, but I do like to find the neatest way to do it. All right, so let's try this again. This is going to be exciting because I think this is going to work out so much better. So you see what I have here is I have the edge turned under. I've already cut my piping. I think this is going to be very streamlined. I'm very excited about this. So let's try this again. I'm going to start stitching. I'm going to clip my thing at 1/2 inch here. Okay, one stitch at the 45. And then let's try this again here. Okay, one stitch at the 45. Cut this right here. One stitch at the 45. All right, we're coming around the last corner here. Oops, just hold it this way. Okay, let's get one stitch. Okay. All right. All right, now for the streamlined fabulosity. Okay, we're going down the other end here. All right, so I'm still going to stop stitching before I get to the opposite end. I'm kind of excited about this. I think this is going to be really easy now because we have our pressed edge. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this to match using my big scissors. Okay, then all I have to do is stick this in here. Oh, this is so much nicer. And just do that. So there would be the actual really easy streamline way to do it. And I can put one clip there. All right, so that was a lot easier. So I'm going to back tack and I'm going to sew right over. I want to make sure that gets right under there. Okay, so that was nice and easy. So again, there's our join, nice and nice. All right, so now let's look at this. So let's think about this for a second. Okay, I know that this folded edge here, sorry, my camera's bouncing. This folded edge here is the top of the cushion. This is like the back of the chair cushion. So this top part needs to have this 2.5 inch. These go on the side here, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to find the center, which is right here, and I'm just going to use the Sharpie marker and put a dot there. That's the center. And I'm going to mark the other one as well. Then I'm going to open it up like this. So basically now to sew this on, here's my mark. I'm going to measure 1.25 inches in both directions because this needs to be centered right at the top of that. Well, like this, really. Okay, so we're going to have 1.25 inches on either side. So I'm just going to measure 1.25 inches and 1.25 inches. And I'm going to turn it around and mark that other side as well. 1.25 inches, and 1.25 inches. Okay, so now that's the first thing. The other thing is, the video stopped? My video is still let me see. Oh, you're back. Oh, good, Liz. I'm sorry. I wouldn't want you to miss a minute of this riveting project. Okay, so there's my 2.5 inches marked on either end. The other thing we're going to do is we are going to press and prep the two ends for the opening, because remember, this is a little tricky here. So I'm going to take out this cushion. So let's turn the original cushion inside out here. This is the best way to tell how to sew something together, is by examining your original thing. So here we have, this is the top folded, oh no, I want to see this part now. Okay, so this is the bottom. So I think what we have to do now is, before we can put the piping on, we have to actually sew the zipper onto the ends. Okay, so you can see here, the zipper is sewn onto the ends of this first. So happily, I have some zipper by the yard here. Just let me move this out of the way here. Okay, so I have zipper by the yard, meaning I can make this zipper any length I want. See all these pulls I have? So basically, I'm going to take this zipper and we're going to sew the zipper onto this end before we put the sides on. So that's going to be the next step. Okay, so basically I'm going to pull one of these pulls into the middle of this section, and I'm going to measure and cut it to be the length of the end. And I always use my crappy scissors when I'm cutting. I have scissors that are not, these are my junk scissors right here. So whenever you're going to cut nylon twill tape and nylon coil, just use your crappy scissors. Alright, so I've cut this to match. So now we're going to sew this on. And remember, I gave myself a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to put this right sides together. And I'm going to sew this on. So let's come back over here. So I am just going to stick this here, and I'm going to sew my zipper on. Now when I get to where the pull is, I'm going to lift my presser foot up and I'm just going to pull it out of the way. So I'm going to zip it past where I sewed so I can just keep sewing neatly. So we've got the zipper. Now this is going to be not ideal. Obviously I would have used a gray zipper if this project had been planned a little bit farther, but this edge is going to be tucked into the bottom of the chair, so you're not going to see the fact that you have a cream zipper there. So you know, you always want to make sure that where you're putting your zipper is not going to be noticeable. So now this is my right side, right? So I'm going to literally take the cover and I'm going to fold it in half like this. So I've got right sides together, and now I'm going to sew it like this. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on this end. And again, we're sewing. Oh, I want to see that. I always like to see my zipper when I sew, so I'm going to start on this end. So I'm lining it up so the actual fabric sides are even with each other here. So again, I'm going to just lift my presser foot and I'm just going to zip that zipper out of the way. Oops. Okay, so now we have, I got these zippers by the yard at Joann's. You can order them from Wawak too. Whoa, you just want to make sure that I'm going to just, to keep everything from getting crazy, I am going to, now that I'm going to press this open like this, we'll finger press it, and just so nothing bad happens, like having a zipper pull come off, I'm going to sew across like this, just to keep it from freaking out. And when I go over the actual teeth, I'm going to hand walk it. And that way there's no chance I will unzip this zipper. There. So see, I just sewed it there to hold it together, and I'm going to do it on the other side too, because I do not want to have any boo-boos here. Excellent. Okay, so we've got, here's my zipper opening. All right, so that's done. Now we're going to put the side panels into the cover. And we're going to turn this inside out. Let's work on this side first over here. So we'll take one of the side panels, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, it's got to be right side face in, right? So I am going to line up those marks I made right here. Okay, this is my, that's where I'm lining up the corners of my, end piece are going to go right here. So I'm just going to put those in place like this. And then it's just going to come right around. Just going to wonder clip it around. So when I get down to the end, wherever that corner is, let's see if that's just going to fit. And I'm going to turn it around and go this way. So this is the step where we really want to make sure we're pressing that needle against the piping to hide all of our previous stitching. And okay, so my measurements are off. That's fabulous. Let me see if I can fit it in. I'm going to center it here. Like this. See if I can ease that in. See if I can ease that in. All right, so I thought I measured everything properly, and I can see that I did not because this is not fitting. So you know what I'm going to do? Just make sure. Hold on. Okay, something is off. Of course. All right, you know what? Let me pin the other one on and make sure that it is in fact off, because if it is, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna create a seam along the top of the cushion to take up the extra. So I measured something wrong, and of course, because I wanted to share this with you, I didn't do a test cushion before I came on live, so here we are in real life with a cushion that's not matching the edge ends. So let me just pin this on. And again, I'm going to match my ends that I put here, and then let's see if it's equally as big on this side. That's what I'm going to do. See, so every time you get to watch me, there's always something going on that's not 100% fabulous, I guess. But, yeah, see, this side is fitting better. All right, so, no, it is a little bit big. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to, this is how we can, maybe I should call my channel How to Troubleshoot When You Make a Mistake, because obviously I'm the queen of making mistakes. So here's what we're going to do. I am going to get that lined up all the way to the top. And then we're going to figure out how big it is. I mean, I could take the zipper off, but I really don't want to do that. Okay, so Ingrid says center marking should be at the top of the fabric, should be in the center of the side panel. Yes, yes it should, Ingrid, and that's how I'm going to show you right now. So here's my center mark right here. Let's look at this up close. So my center mark is right here, but my end is, let me measure. So my end is actually an inch. All right, it's an inch too long on each end. So let me just verify one other thing before I start making any other adjustments. Let me just measure this. This measures, all right, so this does measure 17.5. Now let me just go back and measure this. So this measures 17.5 as well. So I made the outer cushion, I cut it 1 inch too big times 2 because I cut it on the fold. So I just cut this outer edge too big. So let me just verify on the other side that it is in fact the same amount too big. I mean, having a seam at the top of the back of the cushion, no one's going to notice that. That shouldn't be there, so that's what I'm going with here. And I can see that it's also the same amount here. It's an inch too big here too. So what I'm going to do is just, I'll show you what I'm going to do. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to unpin half of this. I'm going to unpin half of this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark 1 inch. I'm just going to draw it with my Sharpie marker here. All right, so I'm just going to sew this in half, and I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to cut it. I'm just going to sew this, and then I'm going to finish putting it on. So now we'll have a seam at the center. Oh, wait a minute. Let me just put some clips here so it doesn't move. All right. Okay, so in fairness to me, I was rushing to prepare this because my sister didn't drop it off to me till after 11 o'clock, so I was rushing. Measure twice, cut once, ladies. That's the motto for today. I'm just going to sew this. And you know I already cut out the other one, so the other one's going to have a seam as well. All right, so now this is going to match, and now I have a seam at the center. So we'll just line that up and pin it on like this. All better. Now I'm going to make sure that that 1 inch seam allowance that I have up at the top is laying flat. So I'm going to make sure it's laying flat in both directions here. Okay, so now it fits. So I'm going to pin it all the way around. And then we'll sew it on, and then this first cushion will be all done. Okay. All right, so see how that matches now? Let me just pin the other one. Let me get rid of these. Just pin this other side, and then we'll just finish sewing this cushion. And then I'll put the cushion in so you can see how it looks. Boo-boos and all. I may run this final seam on my serger as well, because I can see that this fabric is really fraying. Okay. So that is the one thing when you're working on, you know, creating your own pattern, it really is important to double check all your measurements, which I did not. Now the other thing we're going to do is we're going to clip. Remember how we clipped the fabric at the corner? We have to clip the fabric again. So let me just show you that. So where the corner is, like right there, I'm just going to do a snip so I can allow that to open into a square. So see how it opens into a square? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clip all my corners too. But I can see where they're supposed to be, so I can clip them all at once. Okay. And I'm going to sew this with the clip side, the corners, the clip corners face up. That's the other thing. That way I can see what I'm doing. Just clip this corner. Okay, so I've got all my clip corners. I'm just going to clip these two. I'm going to do them both at the same time. Okay, so let me just see here. Yes, and what do you call that kind of zipper? I've seen the tapes and pulls sewed separately. I've never seen it preloaded. This is Zipper by the Yard, and you can get it preloaded. I know Joann Fabrics has it because that's where I got it. I think you can probably also get it at Wawak, W-A-W-A-K. And then Liz said, I missed how you fixed it. Can you restate what you did? Okay, so when I measured the cover, I measured it and I already had it folded. So like the top edge of the cushion was folded. So I was cutting a double layer and I cut it an extra inch too long for the outside cover. So to fix it, I just sewed a 1 inch, basically I pleated out an inch of fabric at the top right here. So see, what I did was this part right here is the part I cut it too long. So I just sewed there, and basically I'm just going to make sure on both ends, you know, it's facing in the same direction so it doesn't twist. And it'll just look like there's a seam at the top of the cushion, which, you know, some cushions do have seams there. So it's, I'm turning my boo-boo into just a little designer detail. It's not a tragedy because I can fix it. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Now that I've got my both my ends on, And by the way, the reason why I used Wonder Clips is because I can shake this and move it around and my Wonder Clips stay on. Pins can sometimes slip out. All right, so I'm going to start right here. And I literally want to make sure I'm sewing on the inside of this line. And actually, well, I was going to change to a darker color, but we're just going to go with it for this one. So I'm going to make sure as I'm sewing inside the line, and that way you won't see it. Liz says, my cushions have the piping on the top and bottom pieces and then a long piece. I think yours is easier. Well, I don't know how they do it in the factory. And again, remember, I'm not a home dec pro. I'm just saving my sister a few $100s. And she doesn't care if they don't come out 100% perfect. So now notice my sewing speed here is significantly slower, and the reason why I'm sewing slow is because I'm really trying to look to make sure this last row of stitching is going to be inside, keeping all of my previous stitching in the seam allowance. Because if you don't sew against the piping the tightest during this last step, you'll see your stitching in the regular, you'll see it on the right side. Oh, Pat said I created a design element. Well, you know what? If I had made the mistake in the wrong decision, or I mean, if I had made the cover section too short, then I would have had a bigger problem because the cushion would have ended up not being big enough. I forgot to clip this one corner. So I guess if I'm going to make a mistake, I'm happy I made it on the in the direction I made it, where I could actually fix it. All right, so I'm sewing right to the corner. And I'm gonna take one stitch in the 45 degree, and then I'm gonna turn it here. And I have to go down this little short edge right here over the zipper. So when I sew over the zipper, I want to be really careful that I'm not breaking my needle too. Oh, I didn't clip this corner either, dummy. Hold on. I thought I had clipped all the corners. Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, 45 degree, and then I'm gonna turn the corner. My sister lives in a neighborhood where, you know, all the neighbors get together and do neighborhood like block parties and such. I'm kind of jealous. I don't have those kind of neighbors where we all get together. I mean, I have nice neighbors, but we just don't socialize like my sister does. So, like, all their kids were all the same age, and it's just nice. So I just want to stop and show you. See how my second row of stitching is inside the first row. So the gray thread that you can't see as well is inside the white. That's what you want to try to do so that your first row of stitching does not show. So the steps to make the square cushions are going to be exactly the same. I'm going to sew the piping to the top and bottom of the cushion, and then I'm going to sew the side panels on just like I'm doing now. So, and I will pick one side to add that zipper. All right, I'm going to stop this. I said I was going to sew in this. I wanted to sew so I could see my, I'm going to start sewing here. I want to see my corners. So where did I? I'm going to start sewing right here. All right, so let me show you what I mean. I said I wanted to sew so you could see the corner that I cut. So here, this is the better side to do it on. So see how I can see my the corner. The only thing you can't see from this side is that your stitching is getting concealed. But I just wanted to see if that's easier. Okay, so my big pleat, I want to make sure it's laying down in this direction, going this way. All right, we literally have 1 inch to go here. So we're almost done. I'm on my last corner. 45. Okay. All right, I'm gonna unsew this a little bit so I can ease in this little bit here that's giving me agita. All right. Oops. I'm gonna get all that under the needle. There we go. Okay, let's finish this up. This side is a little bit. Just gonna sew this. I'm gonna see how bad this looks. A little bit of extra here. All right. Let's see what we have. Okay. Let me just see. I'm gonna oh. Okay, so here, see the boo-boo I did? Not a boo-boo, but you want to make sure when you're working that your cover is unzipped enough that you can continue to unzip it. Don't zip it up all the way because then you won't be able to turn it. I just want to show you, let's see what it looks like. Okay. Let's see what it looks like here. Hey Kim, welcome. This is Jennifer making cushions. Oh, what happened? Oh, that's not the side. I'm like, how did that come undone? I'm like, how is that not sewn together? It was showing the other side I didn't do yet. All right, so you can see, in the big scheme of things, I think that's looking pretty good. All right, so that's how that came out. All right, so that's one side. So that's basically how you do it. Does anybody have any questions or anything about this? I'm going to have to go in and do the other one. So I'm just going to turn it back inside out again. I just wanted to show you how it was coming out. All right, so let me just redo this one. So I'm going to sew up this last one, and then I'm going to get off. So I hope you guys enjoyed my how to refresh your patio furniture with a new cover. And again, see all of this yucky? I'm going to just run the seam on my serger after, just to make sure I don't lose my seam allowances. Oh, Jerry, you made it. You need new cushion outdoors. Happy Friday, celebrating my daughter's and my birthday today. Are you serious, Jerry? It is my daughter and my mother's birthday. Isn't that amazing? Happy birthday. That's wonderful. My older daughter Anna's birthday is today, and I actually dropped her off at the train station to go. She's going to spend the whole weekend, Miss Easter, to ref a big championship volleyball tournament in Philadelphia. So I sent her off on the train. And my other daughter's birthday is on the 19th. So this is a really special time of year. And let me just tell you this one little story. This is not sewing related, but it is so sweet. Let me just tell you. When I was having my first daughter, we went in to have her, and I was in labor, and someone kept calling my room, and it was the wrong number. So the nurse is like, "Oh, just put the phone down." So the phone rang. My husband put the phone receiver onto the shelf behind my head, and come to find out, I called my mother a half an hour after I had Anna, and my mom was literally bawling, and I'm like, "Mom, what's the matter?" I'm like, "I had a baby girl." She's like, "I know, I heard the whole thing." So she had been on the receiver listening to me giving birth to Anna on her birthday. So that's kind of a special thing for my mom and for my older daughter. So yeah, it is a special day today. Happy birthday. Woohoo! All right, so let me get back to this. I'm going to finish this disaster. Just so you know, Jerry, I totally screwed this cushion up, and I cut it 1 inch, which ended up being 2 inches too big, so I sewed a pleat. I'll show you that after I finish. Let me just finish sewing this, and then I will release you for the holiday weekend. Okay, so let's start this. I really would rather see my corners than the original. Well, see, it's a two-edged sword here, because if I have it up facing this way, I can see my stitching. If I have it facing this way, I can't see my stitching, but I can see my cut corners. So do you see my dilemma? I think it's almost better to see your stitching. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to stitch around. And I'm making sure I'm stitching inside my stitching, remember. We're going to celebrate my older daughter's birthday next Friday, because she's not home. But I am making a birthday cake for my mom and my younger daughter, Abby, to have at Easter. So it'll be a fun day on Sunday. And maybe my sister will have new cushions for her chairs. I don't know. I might want to throw this whole project out the window by the time I get off with you today. All right, so I'm gonna sew. Ooh, ooh. All right, relax. All right. All right. Uh-oh. Let me turn my machine off. I traumatized it. All right, let me move that needle back over. Oh, I ran out of bobbin thread. That's the problem. Of course. All right, I'm just going to put in a blue bobbin that I already have thread on, because probably should be using blue thread anyway. All right, so let's finish this up. Oh, so the whole time I was sewing, I wasn't sewing, I think. Was I? Oh, yes, I was. All right, let me just start right here. All right, we're almost done, ladies. All right, so I'm going to sew to this corner. Okay. All right, so let's start sewing right here. See, the one benefit of sewing on the side you can see the seam is it gives you a guide for where you've sewn before. Okay. All right, we're coming around the last corner, ladies. All right, so for any of you who love my newsletter, I have a really, I think, interesting exclusive newsletter tutorial in my April newsletter. I just sent it out at lunchtime. So it's full of my class schedule, and it also has a tutorial showing how slash and spread changes the shape of your pattern. And I did a full butt adjustment slash and spread to show that. So if you guys read my newsletter, there's kind of a cool tutorial in there. Plus all of my classes for April and May are in there too. One of my classes will not be how to sew cushions. All right. Okay, we're on the last corner. I'm going to do my 45. I'm going to just finish this up. And then I'm going to put it on the cushion so you can see how it fits. Okay, so we're almost there. I have like 6 inches to go. Oops. Oh my goodness, this fabric is fraying like a mother. All right. Woo, that was painful. All right, let's see what we have, ladies. Oh, Kim wants to know how to get my newsletter. I believe I have a, if you go to my Instagram and click my, sign up for my newsletter, there's a thing there. If you go to my website, on every page almost, there's a contact form to sign up for my newsletter. And then you can look at previous campaigns. So if you're not on my list now, what you can do is you can click on the April campaign and you can see the April newsletter. But I do have a bunch of fun classes coming up. I am sad. I was all excited to promote my classes for the National ASG Conference. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm happy that they're mostly sold out, but I was hoping, you know, I could promote them and that people could sign up for them. But actually, they're all of them except for my great rub-off class is already sold out for ASG. All right, so now I'm going to put this. So this is the fabulous, it looks like, so basically, look at this. The cushion inside that original thing was basically some batting wrapped in this, I don't even know what you call this. It's not even sewn shut. But that would be the cushion that's in the in here. So what I'm going to do is let's put this end up in the top. Just shove this in here and see if I can get it to. So when I made cushions last year, I noticed that Joann Fabrics carries a, this is going to make me nuts. Joann Fabrics makes a cushion fabric, a cushion that basically is a outdoor polyfill for furniture. So it's like, it looks like fiberfill, but it's designed so it just drains all of the water out. All right, so this is where you'll be able to see how I fixed my boo-boo here. Oh, I think this is going to be nice. So see right here, there's a seam right here. There shouldn't be a seam right here, but there is, but you can see it kind of looks like it's supposed to be there. Oh, wait a minute. Anna must have gotten to Philadelphia. Oh, shoot, wait a minute. See if I can call her. Hold on.
Hello?
Hi, Anna.
Hi.
You're on my live stream.
Oh.
Guess what? It's Jerry's birthday and her daughter's birthday. So I told her all about how it's your birthday and Bocce's birthday.
Oh.
Yeah.
Alright, well, I'll call you later, but...
You're there?
I'm checked into my hotel, safe and sound.
Oh, good. All right, I love you.
Love you too, bye.
Happy birthday!
Thanks, Mom.
Okay, bye. Yay, my birthday girl made it to Philadelphia. All right. Okay. Oop, what happened? Uh-oh. Okay. All right. So basically, ladies, I'm just going to go back in, like I said, and serge those allowances. But you can see that this made a very nice cushion. See? I'm pretty pleased with that. And there's the seam that I added. See the seam that I added right here? That's how I fixed the boo-boo. Okay, but in reality, I think that looks just as nice as the tan one. Okay, so there's how the sides look. Okay, so there is the completed cushion. Woo! All right, so this was an extravaganza of a FabFit Friday. So I just want to thank everybody for joining me today for cushion, zipper, boo-boo seam. There it is. See where I made the boo-boo? And then here is the side. I think it's good. And then here's the other side. And then there's a zipper. So there you are. So that is my refresh your patio tutorial. So if anybody has any questions about doing this, please let me know. I'm going to literally spend the next couple of hours trying to sew some more of these up. If I could get them done for Sunday, I know my sister would be really, really happy. So anyway, thank you guys for joining me. I will have a garment-related project for next week during FabFit Friday. So this was a little departure from my normal sewing, but I'm pleased with the way it came out. See? All right, so have a happy Passover, have a happy Easter, or just have a happy weekend if you don't celebrate those holidays. It's starting to get to be nice weather here in Connecticut, so thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you again very, very soon. Yeah, so I'm going to go now, and thank you. Oh, Judy says, good job. Thank you, Judy. All right. Oh, Oh, Carol says thank you for the live. Oh, you're welcome, Carol. I'm here most weeks at 1 o'clock. Ingrid, thank you for hanging in and watching me for 2 hours. I appreciate it. Thank you, Pat. Happy Easter. Thank you. You guys have a wonderful weekend. I will see you very, very soon.